Hop là. Okay. Hello, everybody. It's such a pleasure today to have Arno Burnier with us. Arno is a great chiropractor, an amazing chiropractor with a huge power inside himself, with a huge fire. He has developed MLS. He came from the Sherman College of Chiropractic. He's French, so you may hear a bit of his French accents, but that makes the charm. And I hope everybody's going to enjoy it, because Arno is a really good speaker, and he's going to share us a lot today. Arno, how are you? Can you present yourself?
Great. Well, I'm Arno. I'm speaking to you guys from Colorado, 2,000 meters in the mountain. So I live in a beautiful town, and within 5 minutes of my house, it goes up to 2,000 meters, 4,000 meters, like the Alps. So it's extraordinary nature, wilderness, bears, coyotes, elk, deers, cougar, bobcat. So we have a lot of nature, and it's a wonderful place to be. Unmuted.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm just I let people in the talk. Okay, and okay, Arno. So can you tell us about how did you meet chiropractic? How did you encounter chiropractic?
Okay, so I met my chiropractor Jean Belaval in 1973, and it was a result of a motorcycle crash. I used to do amateur racing of 125 Yamaha little crotch rockets that are two-stroke engine, and on the second heat of a race, I crashed in the first turn because there was an oil slick. And as a result of the crash, I started having chronic migraine headaches and loss of strength and sensation on the right side of my body. So I knew nothing about chiropractic, never heard of it, never heard of the word, never met any chiropractors. At the time in 1973, there was 90 chiropractors for a population of 55 million people in France. So somehow a friend of my mother, having heard of my crash on the racetrack, said, you ought to send him to this American specialist. He's a chiropractor. His name is Jean Belaval, and he practiced 76 Rue Bonaparte. So at the time, I was in medical school, but also I had left medical school to work in a hospital in a cancer service, ear, nose, throat, and stomatology. So when I met Jean Belaval, I was 23 years old. I was full of myself. I was very much, quote, arrogant about my medical education. And I'm like, I'm meeting an American, specialist that specialized, I was told, in the spine and nerve system. So when I met him, I dispensed my symptomatology using all of my medical linguistic to try to impress him. And all he did was listen to me in total silence. Never said a word, but just acknowledge. And then when I was done, it was silence. He looked straight into my eyes, and I would say now into my soul. And he said, there is nothing that I can do about what's wrong with you. What I can do, however, is address what is right in you. You cannot fight darkness. You must turn on the light. You cannot fight disease. You must turn on life. Those three sentences that he spoke with so much presence and not exaggerated passion, but conviction, charisma, just penetrated my consciousness. And in that moment, I knew no matter what this guy was going to do, I wanted to do what he was doing. It was like a light bulb went off in my brain. So that's how I met Jean Belaval. We became really good friends. I spent a lot of time in his office. My results were slow as far as the physical result, but what he shared with me, the philosophy, the principle of life, of health, of well-being, of wellness, were so powerful, so inspiring, especially that I had spent 3 years in the medical world, where we study symptoms, sickness and disease, and morbidity and pathology. And Jean Belaval was talking about life expression, about the source and the well of life in the body, and about releasing that enormous potential inside a human body. So that approach in 1973 was really new. It was a novel idea. It was not something that people were even exposed to. So it made so much sense, and it was a breath of fresh air in looking at the negativities that I was dealing with in the hospital every single day going there. So I decided I was going to become a chiropractor, and that's when he told me, you have to go to Sherman College, which is the very best chiropractic college in the world. And I trusted that implicitly. And in September, well, I got to tell you a funny thing, though, a really funny story. So at the very same time that I decided to become a chiropractor and to go to the United States, which was against my parents' recommendation, or my friend, you're crazy, you don't even speak English, what are you going to do? This profession is unknown. Everything was against it. And to add insult to injury, I received my paper to join and enroll in the army, which is a requirement in France. And I was like, no way, I'm going to spend my military service in France and then go to chiropractic college. So I was asked to attend a physical exam and evaluation at Fort Vincennes. You probably know, if you see Axel, since you live in Paris. Fort Vincennes is on the east side of Paris, and I was living on the 16th district on the west side of Paris. So I was determined to not go to military. I was like, no way, I'm going to waste 2 years doing this. I want to become a chiropractor now. So for a full week, I rode my motorcycle to Paris, didn't sleep, drank coffee, smoked cigarettes. And after a week, I looked very drained and haggard and stressed out. And on the morning of the requirement to enter this fort called Fort Vincennes, I stopped at a cafe across the street from the fort. And there was a guy at the counter. And he said, are you there for the military inspection? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, I don't want to do it. I'm going to go in, but I'm going to get kicked out. And I'm going to drop acid. And he said, do you want some? And he handed me a tablet of acid. So I said, sure. So I popped it in my mouth. We had a coffee. And by the time we entered Fort Vincennes and went through all of the, logistic and whatnot, I was tripping. I mean, I was gone. People were like looking like flames and colors and all this. And sure enough, when I had my interview for mental and emotional behavior or whatever, I saw the guy, he had a folder and he put a big red arrow across it. And he said, you're dismissed. So the synchronicity of this young man of my age being next to me, and I didn't know him from anywhere, interacting with me, and then asking me if I want to drop acid so that we could be expelled from the military, was perfect timing, perfect synchronicity. And to make a long story short, I left the Fort Vincennes and then rode my 125 racing bike throughout Paris, from the east side of Paris all the way to the west side of Paris. And then I slept for 5 days straight, like only getting up to pee, going to the bathroom, and slept. But that's how I got out of the military service. So I ended up going to Sherman College. And some of you may know that or may not know that. There was an idea of a college. But when I got to Spartanburg, South Carolina, there was no college. And I realized I only had a phone number in my pocket, which was a phone number of the future president of Sherman College, Tom Gilardi. So I ended up being in the pioneer class. And those of you that are at BCC, you can feel already like there is a family there, a passion there. But let me tell you, the passion that was there in 1973 in Spartanburg from all the prospective students that have arrived, from all the teachers, was extraordinary. And then for 4 years, I could say honestly that we slept, ate, breathed, drunk chiropractic 24/7, 365 for 4 years. There was nothing to do in Spartanburg, South Carolina. There was no distraction to be had. So we immerse ourselves into chiropractic. And in my view and my experience today, I would say that I received the very best chiropractic education possible. Still today, I don't think there is any place where you could receive the depth, the strength, the completeness of chiropractic education that I received in philosophy, art, and science. So I felt blessed. I felt like this was a perfect, incredible situation. And that's how I started in chiropractic.
Wow, impressive. Do you have a memory about how were the days when you were the Sherman? How it was?
Everybody was so excited in the morning to get to school. And then we had warm-up exercise with Don Thomas, who was a chiropractor in town. And we did drills and warm up our body prior to entering the technique class. Then we had every day, sometime every other day, depending on the schedule, we had Reggie Gold. Some of you may have heard of Reggie Gold as a teacher, which was unbelievable. I mean, he was like the biggest chiropractor in the United States, the most philosophically sound chiropractor in the United States. And we had him as a teacher. So when Reggie Gold was teaching chiropractic philosophy, he would lay out a principle, lay out an understanding of whether it was universal intelligence or innate intelligence or life force or the triune of life or survival values, whatever. Any kind of philosophical concept, like a building block of chiropractic philosophy, he would lay it out, and then he would open it to questions. And he would throw a question at the class, and then you were like, yeah, I got it. I got the answer. And you would answer it, and 90% of the time, he would just destroy you. I mean, completely destroy you and get you back to come back into your shell and introspect. So the process was very rigorous, but it caused us to question and question and question everything that we were taught. So that was a beautiful process. And then on weekend, we would spend our time with the president of the school, with all the teachers. We had parties, barbecue, baseball games, and all we did was talk chiropractic philosophy. And at the time, in 1973, in Spartanburg, South Carolina, there was those big old Southern mansion, big old Southern homes that had sometimes 8, 10 bedrooms. So in every one of those homes, there was 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 students living together. So in the evening, you know, we would just talk chiropractic philosophy. We would practice the art of palpation. We would practice the art of adjusting. It was ongoing every single day for 4 years. So, you know, we came out, we were basically the US Marines of chiropractic when we came out. Mean green machine of chiropractic. And most of us were really successful. You know, we came out and in no time we had booming practices, very successful practices. And actually, quite a lot of my classmates became somewhat in a position of leadership within the profession and became influential in the profession. So extraordinary education.
Wow, really inspiring. Arno, are you there? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, really inspiring. So basically, you fell in love with the philosophy of our profession.
If what?
You fell in love with the philosophy of our profession.
Oh, falling in love. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, so, because to me, chiropractic philosophy is not just like about subluxation, about adjustment. It's a philosophy of life that I can apply and that I have applied to my own life, to my family life, to nearly all the decisions that I make in life are being ran through my understanding of chiropractic philosophy. It is defined as a philosophy of life and health and things natural. So just a philosophy of life means it encompasses everything in life, you know, every single aspect of my daily life is life. And I can apply that philosophy, which is the recognition that there is a universal intelligence that organizes, created, and runs the universe, that I can trust that intelligence outwards, that I can trust life, that I can embrace life no matter what comes at me in full trust and surrender to what life is bringing me, not resisting it, not fighting it, not creating drama or trauma around it, but just accepting what is. So that alone, for me, bring enormous inner peace. The second thing is innate intelligence, that part of universal intelligence that reside within me, that reside within living vessel, so that there is an intelligence within me that I can trust, that is the cause of all of the processes, whether it's a design of the femur head, the design of a vertebrae, the design of the brain. You know, sometimes we take things for granted. We go like, I got a brain, but we never ask what intelligence, what architect designed that brain? A brain that is fat and water. And then when I think of my grandmother that has died 60 years ago, and I think of a time spent with her, I can recall from my brain, from fat and water, I can recall a vivid picture of the toast that she was cooking in front of the fire and putting this beautiful French butter on it and this homemade jam. And I can almost smell it. How is that possible that my brain can do this? So there is an intelligence that creates everything in the body that is responsible for the design of all the cells, system, organ, tissues. It's a feast that is beyond comprehension. How does it do that? So the acceptance and the recognition of that innate intelligence and the capacity to trust it, to surrender to it when challenged with something is to me very powerful. The next thing is the power of life force. To realize that the power of life force is incredible. I mean, every second of my day, there is millions, actually billions of cells within every second of my day that died, replaced by new one because of life force powering my body and recreating tissue in my body. So those three components alone, it's enormous for me. It has been the cornerstone of my life and the recognition that I can trust those things, that I can be empowered by it. And so that's the beginning of, my passion and love for chiropractic philosophy. So when I apply it to life, I can apply it to the birth process. I can apply it to the digestive process, to the respiratory process, to the healing process, to the dying process. I can apply it to all those processes of life. So what took place for me is at first when I was a student, I studied chiropractic philosophy with Reggie Gold. And then I had the blessing of having Guy Rickman, president of Life University now, Joe Felicia, some of you may have heard of him, Doug Gates, Jim Ziegefuss, exposed to Jim Ziegefuss, to Sid Williams, incredible people, very powerful people, Jim Parker, very spiritual, dedicated people. So I had those people as mentors, and that philosophy became an integrate part of my life on a daily basis. And I strongly encourage all of the students, if you feel like, well, I only have an intellectual understanding, to spend time in nature. If you spend time in nature and quietly observe nature, you will see that everything that's being taught in chiropractic philosophy is being validated by what you can observe in nature. It is not specific to chiropractic, that philosophy. It is a perennial, universal philosophy that has been recognized all over the world by people that spend the time to observe the universe, to observe the workings of nature. So that has been for me a strong confirmation and support in validating chiropractic philosophy.
Oh, I love the answer. Amazing. So from this, you basically have fell in love with the chiropractic philosophy. And how did the idea of sharing it to people came up to your mind?
To sharing it?
Yeah, to share it to people.
Okay, so clearly, because I came from the medical world, if I only look at the art of chiropractic, which a lot of people call it technique, the technique of chiropractic, and I want to emphasize that chiropractic is not a philosophy, science, and technique. It's a philosophy, science, and art. So we have to make sure that we understand that technique has nothing to do with the art of chiropractic. It's very separate and distant. Now, is there a technique behind the art? Yes, but the art of chiropractic. So if I look at how most chiropractors practice, people come in, they ask them about their symptom, they do a history, and then they do an analysis, they adjust them, maybe they push check them, and then send them away to come back at a certain frequency. If I look at this, I go, for the public, chiropractic is nothing but a natural aspirin, but a natural painkiller, but a natural drug to answer my situation, my symptom, my sickness, my disease. Nothing else to the public. So why would I spend my life duplicating what the medical profession and all of the other therapies are doing, which is by applying a natural treatment, in quote, to people's problem. However, if I bring in the philosophy and the science, now chiropractic stands completely as a unique profession that is seeding, that is planting seeds for a new consciousness, for a new paradigm for life. So to me, sharing chiropractic principle and philosophy, sharing the building blocks of chiropractic understanding, sharing the laws of life became an integrated part of my practice. If you came to my practice, you were exposed to regular talks that were not lay lectures. They were very profound, deep discourse about building blocks of chiropractic philosophy. And as a result of that, people's lives were transformed. Their consciousness was transformed. I became for them an enzyme, a catalyst for transformation. And I was driven by a vision. My vision is clear that for humanity, down the line, whether it's in 25 years, 50 years, 100 years, 200 years, it doesn't matter. Down the line, the next so-called healthcare system is a proactive, life-supporting, life-enhancing type of care. And I want to make sure that we understand that it's not just about chiropractic. Acupuncture, which is a separate profession, can be used in a proactive, life-supporting, life-enhancing discipline. Nutrition, which has nothing to do with chiropractic, can be applied on a regular basis to support the body proactively into health and well-being and healing. Body work, energy work, life coaching, countless disciplines are positive for human physiology. They can be applied on a regular basis as a form of true healthcare, and that is the future for humanity. Because the present symptom, sickness, and disease care is not producing the desired results. It's a matter of fact, it's creating more sickness and disease than we ever had. So that's the next step for humanity. Will I see it in my lifetime? I don't know. But what I know is that chiropractic has a philosophy and a science to bring this consciousness, this awareness, and to birth this new paradigm for humanity. So that has been my driven vision. And it has been my motivation to inspire the public to come to my talks. And people that have come to my office can tell you, and my wife that was my CA can tell you, at first, when I started, I had 3 people, and then I had 5 people 2 weeks later, and then I had 8 people 2 weeks later, and then I had 2 people, and then I had nobody showing up. I never wavered. After a year and a half, I started having 20, 25 people at every one of my talks every other week. And then within 3 years, I had 40, 50, 60, 100 people every single other week to come to my talks. And then I got invited to speak outside my office. And then it snowballed into this amazing movement of teaching chiropractic philosophy and principle.
Wow, so inspiring. So when you were sharing the chiropractic philosophy to people, did you had a topic for the talks every week?
Absolutely, absolutely. So first of all, I created very bizarre titles that were kind of intriguing and made people curious, but it would give me the leeway to address whatever topic I wanted. So to give you a sense of the topics, I give talks on universal intelligence, 1 hour talk on universal intelligence, sometimes 45 minutes. And then 2 weeks later, I may give a talk on the meaning of symptomatology, understanding what does symptom means in the body. How do we understand them from a practical standpoint? And then 2 weeks later, I may have a talk on the power of life force. 2 weeks later, I may have a talk on what I call the miracle we never see, which is, we glorify people that heal from cancer, but we don't glorify people that go through life being healthy and well, having the little fluctuation that are normal in life, but go through life really well. We don't glorify those. So I had a talk on the miracle we never see. Then I had a talk on the gestation process from one cell, invisible to the naked eye. How do we get to a baby ready to be born 9 months later? And through that talk, I would absolutely cause people to be amazed and in wonder at the intelligence within and at the design of the human body. And then 2 weeks later, I may have a talk on innate intelligence. 2 weeks later, I may have a talk on the birth process and the birthing process as a natural body function. 2 weeks later, I may have a talk on the birth process as it is done in a hospital under medical care with all of the intervention possible and how they interfere with human physiology for the baby and for the mother. And then 2 weeks later, I may have a talk on the meaning of illness. Then I may have 2 weeks later a talk on the sacredness of the neuro-spinal system, understanding the depth of what the spine and nerve system is about. So basically, what I did is 2 cycles throughout the year, 6-month cycle, 6-month cycle, 12 talks each. And sometime after 6 months, I will revisit a talk on universal intelligence, but I would upgrade it. I would make it dynamic and upgrade it so that it's always fresh, so that I didn't ask people to come to every one of my talks, but after they came to a talk, they were so inspired that maybe a month later, they say, oh, I'm available, I'm gonna come listen to him. And they would be exposed to more chiropractic philosophy. And the other thing that I want to convey is that I also, in quote, adjusted my practice with my talks. So to give you an example and to clarify this, says that the dominant conversation for the last 2 weeks in my office was people talking about their symptom. Then I would do a talk on the meaning of symptoms. But says that a month later, the dominant conversation is about the spiritual aspect of chiropractic and what people experience on a spiritual level. then I would ground people back by giving a talk on the sacredness of the neuro-spinal system. But I didn't want them to get off on a tangent all the way into spirituality and disconnect from the ground level. So throughout the year, according to the dominant conversations that I could hear in the waiting room or people talking to me, I would realign my practice with a talk to get it back in center line. So I use the talks not only to, in quote, adjust my practice, but I also use the talks to create community, that people felt they were part of a movement and part of a vision. And when you do that, you build enormous practice that are stress-free, that are very stable. I took 2 weeks vacation every 3 months, and my practice never dipped. It did always natural fluctuation of life, but once I had reached maximum volume, it stayed at that level throughout all the years.
Well, really inspiring. We had a question from Teddy. So were talks every 2 weeks, or were there also first visit talks every week for new patients?
No, every 2 weeks. And Teddy, by the way, it's good to see you, Teddy. I remember you from, I think you were in Hamburg, right? Yeah. I did the talk every 2 weeks, but within the talk, at some point, spontaneously, I would have, quote, a mini lecture that will give people that just started care an understanding as to the rationale for chiropractic care. So I wanted to make sure that anybody that was new would go like, well, this is very interesting. Let's talk about life force, but what does it have to do with my care? What does it have to do with me? So I wanted to make sure that I had a mini lecture inserted into it, that those people would understand, oh, that is the rationale for the care. That is what the adjustment does. That is why I ought to get checked on a regular basis to open my life channel. And then it would be a reinforcement for the people that have been there for years. So that came very naturally, spontaneously, just a natural way that it came that day to share, what is it that we provide as a chiropractor? What is the service that we provide? And I would certainly reinforce in that mini lecture that being exposed to the philosophy and the science of chiropractic was part of the care that we rendered. And that way it will reinforce people that, well, that makes sense. Yes, this is why I come to the talks. This is why he gives talks in the office. So that was part of the process. Does that answer your question, Teddy?
Yes, thank you very much, Arno. Yeah.
Great. And Teddy, know that because you were at that seminar in Hamburg, if you need help with your talk, call me or set up a phone call and I'll help you. Okay.
It's very kind of you.
Lay out bullet points, but you'll have to fill in between, but I can give you different layout. We can discuss it. Any challenge you have, okay?
All right, I will work on this then.
Yeah.
Sure. Going a bit back, at one point you were saying that people came because in a way they were just transforming within your hands, right?
Well, some people, they felt something very profound took place. Other people, their consciousness, their nervous system was not that open. They may felt like, I feel somewhat better. Some people felt, at this point, I don't feel any different. But beyond that, the energy that was in the office, the field that was created, and also the consciousness that was created through all those talks generated a transformation. So as you know, some people make small steps forwards, other people make big leap forwards. It's all, it's all individual. You can't make it cookie cutter. So I think one thing that in my early days in chiropractic, I wanted everybody to get it. You got to get this chiropractic stuff. And I realized that's not the case. Some people are going to get it somewhat. Some people are not going to get it at all. And some of the people are really going to get it and say, I want to become a chiropractor, you know? And by the way, for those of you that are in practice, know that sometimes the most skeptical people, the people that appear not to get it, sometimes are your greatest source of referral. Because in their community, among their friends, among their family, they are known to be a skeptic. If that skeptic goes to a chiropractor, maybe there is something to it. So don't trash people, don't judge them, let them evolve and grow at their own pace.
Okay, so at what point did you realize that did you already knew that having a big community, having a field around you during your practice was going to increase the energy, increase your energy, and make this whole exchange of spiritual evolution in a way? Or did you just like one day you stop and you're like, whoa, this is what I've created?
It's a good question, Axel. It's a very organic process. For me, it has been a very organic process. It grew organically. However, I can recognize two major turning points. One is when I start to introduce clearly the spiritual aspect of chiropractic. Not that it's only spiritual, but the spiritual aspect of chiropractic. When I start to convey that life force is light in the body, which is spirit in the body. And that through the adjustment, independently of what people think, the intention of the adjustment is to release the life force, which is light, which is spirit in the body. When I start having that kind of conversation, the practice almost exploded. The next thing is that I think I was about 10 years, maybe 12 years in practice. I realized that I was giving of myself. I was constantly giving of myself. But I was not so open to receive from people. And when I start to realize that, and I open myself to being vulnerable and to receive the love that they wanted to give back, the gratitude they wanted to give back, then the practice took an enormous bump up, because now the cycle of giving and receiving was complete. It was not just half of it. So those are the two major turning points that I had in practice.
Okay, well, yeah, this okay. About like accepting receiving, that's a huge point. So, and from all of those years of practice, at some point you wanted to share what you've learned with this huge master, with the chiropractic community, right? So how did the idea of MLS seminars, or even like sharing the big idea, came up to your mind?
Okay, so again, it happened completely organically. It's not like I had a plan and, I'm going to become a public speaker and I'm going to be on the platform and I'm going to push my way through. No, the river of my life invited me. So at first it was local people invited me to speak. And then it was local chiropractors inviting me to speak in their office. And then it was the state organization inviting me. And then it was a national organization. Then it was a private seminar like Parker, like Living Principles, New Beginnings, Mile High, that invited me to speak. So wherever I was invited to speak, I said, yes, sure, I'll come and speak. I was invited at the Tri-City Medical University to speak in Tennessee by Lou Corletto. So it was amazing, it just completely happened organically. And then as a result of it, different schools and student organizations would ask me, could you come on campus and speak about chiropractic philosophy? So as I mentioned before the call with you, Axel, what happened is I would set up seminar on chiropractic philosophy and 10 people would show up, 20 people would show up. 8 people would show up. And I went like, this is crazy. This is the most important piece of chiropractic that we need to know and understand. And only a trickle of people are showing up. So I decided I'm going to do an adjusting seminar. I'm going to teach adjusting. And through the seminar, I'm going to inject chiropractic philosophy. So I created MLS Adjusting Seminar. And that's how it happened. And then through the MLS Adjusting Seminar, I always interjected philosophy in it. And now I had attendance of 80, 100, 120, 200 people showing up at the seminar. And they were like, man, this is great. I'm so passionate now about chiropractic. I was about to quit practice, but you really turned me on to the real idea of chiropractic. So it was a home run. It was great. So that's how it took place.
Yeah, well, so some of us has been to the Paris seminar, your last one actually, seminar
Right.
Paris, and we were like 300 chiropractor, and the energy in the room was just impressive. It was impressive.
Do you know that it's the only seminar I ever gave in Paris? I had never been asked to do a seminar in France. And let me tell you this story. So I started chiropractic 76 Rue Bonaparte in Jean Bellaval's office. When I was asked to do a seminar in Paris by a student from France that attended the Barcelona seminar, I said, yes, I'll come. 2 weeks before the scheduled date of the seminar in Paris, I received a phone call. And it's a chiropractor in Paris that said, would you be interested to talk to a group of students and chiropractors prior to the seminar, like the Thursday before the seminar, which was on a weekend? And I said, sure. Do you know where it took place? 76 Rue Bonaparte, in my chiropractor's office. So the last seminars that I did, the last MLS seminar before I passed it on to senior staff, was in Paris. And my talks was at my original field chiropractor's office. So for me, it was a confirmation of closing a circle, a cycle, that indeed I was complete and it was time to move on to something else.
Really beautiful.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I could not have made that stuff up. I could not have arranged it if I wanted to. You know what I mean? It just happened by pure, perfect synchronicity.
So yeah, we'll get to synchronicity if you want to talk about it. But from this whole, now that you stopped the seminars, so what is your perspective today on what you gave to the chiropractic profession? How did you see the chiropractic profession evolve so far? What is your perspective on this?
So you asked me what I gave to the chiropractic profession. I give my love and passion, obviously, all those years. I think I have been a strong influence in chiropractic. I never wanted to have control. I think there is a distinction between control and influence. Many politicians within our profession want to have control. Many people in the educational system want to have control. I wanted to have an influence. I think I had a significant influence in the understanding of vitalism and chiropractic philosophy, and also in influencing the profession to dedicate itself as a professional in the art of adjusting. That impact I know I've had on the field, you know, all kind of tentacles have come out of MLS. But the major drive has been, we created a training for professionals to approach adjusting as if we are professional athlete, professional musician, professional martial artist. So with that intensity, with that focus, with that dedication, with that commitment. So that's an influence that I've had. And the other influence is the creation of the Cafe of Life model, which is a model of practice that broke the mold of what was happening in the United States, where chiropractic practices everywhere look like a medical office. It could be one day a medical office, 2 weeks later it could be a dental office, 2 weeks later it could be a chiropractic office, 2 weeks later it could be a gynecologist office. the layout, the framework, the infrastructure, the feel of it was the same. It was sterile. It was cookie cutter sterile. And I brought to the profession the Cafe of Life model, which is a very professional but eclectic environment, which is a self-expression of that chiropractor in the decor, the lighting, the artwork, the feel, the texture of the wall, the texture of the floor. And then inside that eclectic environment, the chiropractor being highly skilled, trained through MLS, and then with very strong philosophy, anchor in the philosophy, anchor in the science, and the willingness to create and give educational program and public speaking. So that Cafe of Life model was thrown out to the profession in 1996 and has transformed the whole landscape of chiropractic practices, at least in the United States. So that's the other influence that I've had. And almost like in spite of me, like it was, I did what I love to do, and that was it, you know. And then that was the result of it.
No, that's pretty impressive. But so one of the questions is like, where did you get this drive? Where did you get this energy, this focus, this determination, and this discipline to like if the seminar that you gave in Paris gave me so much discipline. And
so that discipline came from two aspects. Actually almost three aspects. One was my father. My father was an officer of the Swiss Army during World War II. And actually many people may not know that, but he was kind of a Schindler's List type of person, because the Germans, the Nazi, had contracted Switzerland for regular delivery of milk into Paris during the occupation by the Nazi. So my father was in charge of convoy that left Switzerland and went into Paris. And once he had delivered the milk, which came in those big vats that were, you know, really tall. And I don't know if you remember those, they were made of aluminum, and then they had a bottleneck like this with a big lid and chain that all the farms had at the time. Once he had delivered the milk, he connected with the underground, with the French resistance, and had Jewish babies and Jewish children put in the vats and in his trucks and send them back to Switzerland. And that's what he did through the whole war. But being an officer of the Swiss Army, which is an extremely disciplined country, he instilled in me the self-discipline of doing physical exercise every single day. So I already had that. And then I got into martial art early in my life, first into judo, then into karate, then into Kung Fu Sensui. So for nearly 45 years of my life, actually, because I started about 5-6 years old, until I was in my 50, I did martial art on a regular basis. So that was also part of my self-discipline. And then my love and passion for chiropractic. There was a turning point too. I realized that entertainers, like in Cirque du Soleil, I don't know if any of you have watched Cirque du Soleil, but in Cirque du Soleil, you have contortionists that practice in the shows, they show their skills for maybe 3 or 4 minutes. And then I find out that they practice 5-6 hours a day, every day, in order to perform in the show. And then in martial art, people go into competition in the UFC, in mixed martial art, to basically beat up another human being. And they practice yoga, they practice meditation, they practice boxing, they practice road work, cardiovascular, weightlifting, wrestling, karate, grappling, to destroy a human being for 5 minutes. And I'm like, we are turning on life in the body and we haven't taken this seriously. We're not training like professional. Something is wrong with our profession. So those different aspects gave me the self-discipline to really dedicate myself as a professional to train in the art of adjusting. That's where it came from.
Well, So yeah, I'm going to start martial art then soon. Okay, so can you're speaking a lot about synchronicities. So what is your definition of synchronicities? What is the meaning behind all of this happening?
Okay, to me, synchronicity is the alignment with the universe. Synchronicity is when the mental impulse reach the cell at the exact time in quantity and quality needed. So there is synchronicity in the body, there is hypersynchronicity in the body at all time, unless there is interference to the flow of life force. So by the same token, I think all of us have experienced moments in our lives where we're completely aligned, we are in the flow of life, and things show up with perfect timing, with grace, with serendipity, with providence. It happens a lot actually when people fall in love. During that early phase of what I call the honeymoon of a relationship, a lot of time people experience this type of synchronicity. Some people experience it on vacation when they travel on what I call unplanned vacation, where they travel and they come to a city and they go, well, I think we should look for a hotel now, and it falls into place. So I feel aligned with your soul calling, with the calling of your spirit, that life smiles at you and provide you with hypersynchronicity. That has been my experience for me in a chronic manner since 1973. So I have so many examples of things that are beyond comprehension. So I'll give you one just that came to my mind right now. I was with Jay Komarek, which some of you may have heard of. He's an animal chiropractor, very famous, world famous, friend of mine. We've been friends for over 20, actually 30 years now. And we were in Georgia, in the mountains of Georgia, in the forest of Georgia, very, very dense forest where you have to literally, if you go bushwhacking, not on a path, but bushwhacking, you're basically, going between trees like this. The density is so high. And for 2 full days, we were bushwhacking, which means going off trail to look for a specific site for an event that we were doing when I had a 6-day training camp in Georgia for chiropractors and health professionals. So for 2 days, we've been trekking through the forest. And at some point, I stopped to pee. And right in front of me on a tree is carved in the tree, Boo, B-O-O, which is the name of my son. So I called Jay and I said, Jay, come check this out. Look at this. I mean, what is the chance in 2 days, the number of times that I had stopped to pee, where I had been, there's not a marking on any tree. And I stopped right at it, even if it had been like at an angle from the tree, I would not have seen it. Right in front of me, it said Boo, which is my son. More likely, it was something that was carved during the Civil War by a slave, a black slave, that were hiding in the forest of Georgia. So this was like a perfect confirmation that we were on the right track, right? So then we find the site to do this event, and it's the top of a waterfall, which is about 40, 50 feet drop to a pool below. And when we do the event there, every single participant that was at this event had a butterfly that landed on their shoes. And the butterfly is a sign of transformation. And then the next participant will come up to do the event on the top of the waterfall, and the butterfly will come back and land on their shoes. You can't make that stuff up. To confirm that this was a transformative process for people, and it was. So, I mean, I have some that are like 1 in 6 billion probability, which came around the time that we adopted kids. So my life has been blessed. And I can only say to people, if you follow your soul and you follow your heart, not ever questioning it, no matter how irrational to the rational mind it appears. Do it. Unwavering with total trust. The universe will support you and show up in amazing ways. Yeah.
Wow, super. Actually, I have so many questions. So, but maybe if someone have a question, they can switch the mic on and ask you some question, I guess.
Well, I see somebody said, what are the main points of this kind of transformative process?
Ooh.
Yes,
Okay,
about this kind of retreats. What
the
do you
6-day retreat, Teddy, was virtually a process where we took people for 6 days, and it started at 5:30 in the morning, ended up usually at 1 o'clock in the morning. And my intention was to instill chiropractic philosophy in people, instill the understanding that we have to train like professional, introduce them to this type of training, and then have a transformative event that will strip them of everything but their heart and their soul. So the process was designed to completely waste people physically, then waste them mentally, then waste them emotionally. And at some point during those 6 days, people were left with nothing but their spirit and their heart. And it never failed. In all the years that we did it, it never failed that at some point organically it would happen. And then people realize, now I'm in touch with the calling of my soul, and I'm in touch with listening to my heart. And that transforms their lives as a chiropractor, because one of the things that is clear to me is that nearly everyone, there may be an exception, but nearly everyone came into chiropractic to heal themselves. And the spiritual books, no matter which discipline it is, Christian, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, say, physician, heal thyself, which doesn't mean physician, heal thyself of a physical ailment. Physician, heal thyself at the core of your being. So that process study was designed to bring people into healing themselves as a human being, healing their wounds, their baggage, their armoring, their stuff, their shtick, their shit, whatever you want to call it, so that they could be clear vessels to serve the public. That was the point of the process.
Thank you.
Maybe someone have a question, maybe?
No wrong question, don't hesitate.
Well, if no one speak up, I have a question. It's like, from your experience and your as well your personal experience. So, what is healing?
What is healing? Well, there is many different things in healing. There is physiological healing, biological healing, and then there is core healing. So from the public perspective, before understanding chiropractic principle, healing means I have symptoms, I took something, or I did something, and my pain is gone, my symptoms are gone. That's to the public is healing. That is not healing. That is suppression of the symptomatology. Healing is cellular replacement, where sick cells or damaged cells die and are replaced by new ones that are healthier. In order for that to happen, we have to change the circumstances that the body had in creating sick cell, or give it time for damaged cell to die and be replaced by new one. So to retrograde on this, healing from a disease, which means sick cell created in the body by the body, have to die. And if sick cells have been created in the body by the body, it means that the body has a capacity to recreate new cells that are healthier than the sick one. They will die, And in turn, healthier cell will come back to replace them, and then healthier one again, healthier one again. And after turnover of tissue and cells, the healing has taken place. That's when you deal with an illness or a sickness. When you deal with an injury, broken bone, torn muscles, torn ligament, the damaged cells have to die off, be replaced by new one. And again, that will be facilitated if you have an unobstructed flow of life force in the body. So that's biological healing, physiological healing. Core healing is healing the driver in the car. It's healing the being inside the physical body. So to give you an understanding, many of us, actually all of us, at some point in our lives have been damaged, have been wounded by the 5 basic wounds of humanity: humiliation, abandonment, betrayal, injustice, or rejection. Any one of you take a moment right now and reflect on that. I guarantee you have experienced one of those 5, or if not all of the 5 wounds. If you look clearly at your life and you were wounded as a human being, and that wound has to be healed, especially as a chiropractor, as a facilitator of the healing process. So that's core healing. And core healing takes place when your awareness and your consciousness illuminate the darkness within, expose those wounds, then there is a process where you start to introspect and grow and evolve and transform. There is also baggage that we carry. Some people, for whatever reason, are susceptible. Some others are very defensive. Some others are very aggressive. Those were strategies that human beings have designed to survive childhood, to survive an overwhelming father, to survive an abusive teacher. So we carry those baggages, and a lot of time we're not aware of it. So now we enter into a relationship with someone, and we have the honeymoon phase of the relationship. Everything is wonderful, everything is extraordinary, everything, this is, I'm so in love with that person is absolutely perfect. Give it a little bit of time, and you are in a different phase of the relationship. And now you realize that that person has stuff, has issues that needs to be addressed. But they don't see it in themselves. You, being the other one on the relationship, can see it in that person, and you point it out to them, and they go, no, I don't know. Doesn't happen in me. And they do the same to you. And now you're in this battle of pushing buttons right and left, right and left, right and left. So healing at the core is being able to access the deep consciousness, the deep awareness within ourselves, to expose clearly those issues, those patterns, those baggages that we carry, and then being able to progressively shift the pattern, transform them, let them go. Now I'm going to intensify this in clarity. Many of us have been in a relationship, honeymoon phase, then beginning of conflict, back and forth, and then it's like, I can't do it anymore, I can't take it. And we split. And when we split, one or the other has a broken heart. And suddenly, having the broken heart, we go, I can see what she was saying to me. Yeah, I think she was right. I'm a very defensive person. For the first time in our life, we see clearly what somebody else has pointed out to us. With an open heart, with a broken heart, we now have the awareness to see the issues that we need to address. And if we don't address them, we're going to repeat the same pattern in the next relationship. So in practice, as a chiropractor, we are in relationships with people. Every single client that you see, you're in a relationship with them. And your stuff and their stuff shows up subliminally, in a subliminal manner, or in a very apparent manner. But it will show up. So the clearer you are as a human being, the easier the relationship is. And the field can be clear between you and them. It's not murky, it's clear. That's what core healing is. And chiropractic can provide physiological healing as well as core healing.
So if I understood well, in order to develop core healing, you have to show vulnerability.
You have to show openness and vulnerability, yeah. And honesty with oneself. Absolutely. It's very easy to deny when somebody pushes your button and say, Axel, you are so defensive, man. What do you mean I'm defensive? I'm not defensive. Right there, you were defensive, man. What do you mean? I wasn't defensive, right? One of those, it's a caricature of it, but that's what it is. So it's very important to do that work. I see Harry's girlfriend going like, that's so cute. Oh.
Okay, so I have two last questions.
Okay.
Maybe if someone wants to ask a question, you feel free to ask. Really, guys. Maybe.
Could I ask a question? I wanted to, you said earlier about you let yourself like be vulnerable to patients or accept what patients could give to you. And I was just wondering what you meant by like what the patients give back to you.
Okay, very good question, Dave. Within a profession, especially maybe, especially in the States, maybe I'm now in England and I think through Caro Europe, maybe in the rest of Europe, we are being told from people on the platform, you need to be like, how are you, Arno, today? Oh, I'm feeling great and extraordinary. You have to be up all the time. That's fake. That's not being authentic as a human being. So there is time, Dave, where circumstances happen in your life. Your mother had passed away. So you come into your practice and you can either say, how are you, Arno? Hey, I'm great. And that's bullshit. Because in reality, you're dealing with a grieving process. You're dealing with the pain of losing your mom. So in that moment, you may still be in practice during those days, those weeks of grieving. And the public may recognize and go, Dave, what's going on with you? You don't seem to be yourself. You seem to be so sad. Then you can say, yeah, I lost my mom and I'm grieving. Those people, anybody hearing that will want to reach out to you for their love, their concern, their empathy, their compassion towards you. But if you're not authentic, that's being blocked. So you have to let yourself be real as a human being. And as a human being, we go through fluctuation through life. We have things that happen to us, or that happen for us, actually. And to allow the public to give to you, to see you authentically. That is a very important piece as a facilitator of the healing process as a chiropractor. So that's what I meant by that. Yeah?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
So one of my last questions is, what is the biggest failure that you went through to get you where you are today?
The biggest failure
that you went through and it brought you up here today.
Hmm. I had many, many failures. I was not very good at delegating. Um, I had a really hard time trusting other people to do it right. I had many of those issues that were wounds from early childhood. Uh, I can't put my finger on the biggest failure. Um, at one point in my life, for a period of about 5 months, I was done doing the 6-day intensive training camp. It had accomplished its purpose and its mission and its vision. And a group of people that had been on my staff wanted me to revive it. And I let myself be influenced by their demand and their passion. And for 6 months, I felt I'm out of, for the first time in my life since 1973, I'm out in sync with life. I'm out of the flow of life. I'm trying to push the river of my life. It's hard. I'm pushing. I'm not being pulled by my passion and my love. I'm pushing to make it happen. And it didn't happen. It collapsed. So that was probably, in quote, my biggest failure, but it taught me a lesson that the conniving way that the ego can come back in a very subtle way. And basically, those staff, I understand, they felt like this training that you were doing for 6 days was so transformational. It's bigger than you. We have to keep it going. And somehow, the little voice of the ego say, "Oh no, come on, do it." But I was done. I was complete. So I think those 6 months, when I realized what had taken place, and then when I gave it up and I stepped back into the flow of life, the river of my life, I felt you got to be very vigilant because the ego is so conniving and so smart and can come around in subtle ways and bite you. So that might have been the biggest failure in increasing my awareness and to be more aware and more observant as to what is my deepest motivation. Why am I doing this? Why am I saying this? What is behind it? Does it come from pure place or does it come from a place of ego? So that may be the one that I can pass on to you.
That's a good one. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, it was a good one for me, let me tell you. What a lesson. What a whooping.
To reflect on the ego, how would you help someone who's been driven all his life by his ego, really strong ego, and almost defines himself with a strong ego? And I don't know if it's to help someone that I feel is working with a very, very strong ego, and I think it's destroying his life, but I don't know how to help him address this. So what advice would you have on this?
Teddy, I don't know that I have an advice or remedy or a solution for this. What I've observed through history is that strong, they can achieve a lot. Hitler is a perfect example. Stalin is another example. Strong ego can create an amazing amount of stuff, transform a country overnight, revolutionize the economic system of a country, build pyramids, build incredible stuff. But over time, eventually it leads to their demise, to their destruction, because the spirit is stronger than the ego regardless. So, in our profession, there is many people that you can clearly see it, that are driven by ego. They do a lot of great things for the profession, yet in time, either they will retreat to surrender to their soul and their spirit, or they will be destroyed in one form or another. So I don't know that you can, it's hard enough to change ourselves. I think to change somebody else is even a tougher task. So the best, I think, is to observe with love and compassion, and if possible, and I say if possible because I found it extremely difficult, without judgment. You know, I'm still battling every day with surrendering judgment. And man, especially being born and raised in the French culture, so that's my ongoing battle with myself. And I'm getting better and better at it with age, but it's a tough one. So if I have anything to tell you, Teddy, is observe it with compassion, with empathy. We can't change other people. We can only change ourselves.
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Anyone have a question? Maybe Harry, do you have a question?
No, sorry.
One about, oh, there you go.
Okay. Well, I go for it, Dave.
I have one about like just book instead, like other than the green books, is there any like things you recommend to read or learn as like?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I have an enormous reading list that if you email me, I will send it to you. It's basically when I stumbled into chiropractic, since I was in medicine for 2 years and then worked a full year in a hospital in a cancer service, I decided when I stumbled into chiropractic that I will not study anything that relate to sickness and disease. I will only study things that relate to life, health, healing, and well-being. So I have a very extensive reading list, and I will email it back to you. My email address is very easy. Can you see it on the chat? And I'm going to give you another one too, because sometimes that one, for some reason, yep. You see it in the chat?
No. Ah, yeah, yes.
I give you 2 different emails. Okay. And I'm also on Facebook and on WhatsApp. So it's better to email me. It's easier for me in the computer, and I'll send you the reading list.
Awesome, thank you.
I didn't know that people of your generation still read. I thought they were only watching videos. But I found reading to be much more profound than just a video. I mean, videos are great, but the retention, the self-reflection, absorption, I think it goes deeper in a book.
It's very true. So, but maybe if you had one book to recommend to everybody.
I always recommend from BJ Palmer, Fame and Fortune, which is funny because it sounds like, oh, it's about being famous and about making a lot of money, fortune. And if anything, that book is the antidote to that, as far as this is not where BJ Palmer was coming from in sharing what he shared in that book. So, but it's a small book. I must have read it over 25, 30 times, because when I was traveling, doing seminars and public speaking, I always had it with me. And then somehow I gave that copy to somebody at the conference or at the seminar, and then I would buy a new one, underline it. And every time I read it over and over, I found more gems in it, more depths to it. So I gave so many away. But that's one that I really love.
Okay. As a last question, for me, and maybe if someone else have one, but if you had the possible, from all the care from your life, from the whole perspective, the experience that you had with chiropractic and that life gave you, and if you could reach every student of the chiropractic profession, or maybe even student of life, what would you share to them?
I would say that if you haven't fallen in love with chiropractic, then you may want to really dig deep and inquire about what it is truly about. And if you have done that inquiry all the way to the depths of it, and you are still not in love with chiropractic, you may want to consider another path in life. But I cannot imagine someone really, really studying the depths of our principle, the laws of life, the chiropractic philosophy, the vision of the Palmer, and not totally fall in love with it. So if somebody went through all that, got to the bottom of it, not in love with it, choose something else. Because my thing in life, you got to be in love with what you do. Otherwise, you're taking a job from somebody else and you're not serving yourself nor the public. You need to be in love with what you do. So passionate that it's never work. It's not like, I hear people saying, I got to go to work. I'm like, I've never went to work. And since 1973, I haven't gone to work. I went to serve in my office and I've been on an endless vacation. So it's not work. If it's work, you got to get out of it.
Amazing. Thank you. Anyone have a question maybe, guys?
Yes, just to know if you have some staff in the UK who can facilitate seminars.
I didn't get that.
If you have MLS staff in the UK who can facilitate seminars.
If I have MLS and then it gets crumbled, what was that? Axel, do you pick it up?
Yeah. If you had MLS staff in the UK that could give seminars in the UK.
Yes, as soon as COVID is, I'm sorry, Sebastian, but it didn't come clear to the speaker, to the microphone. Yes, as soon as COVID is over and travel restrictions are removed, and this is going to be a challenge because now a lot of chiropractors are not willing to have vaccination, which I'm one of them. If it's required to travel, it's going to be a real challenge to go around that. But yes, as soon as travel restrictions are lifted and gathering are authorized by hotels and by the government for seminars, we are resuming MLS in the UK. And we have a staff lined up and, we have connection and we're going to restart it. So it's going to happen. That's where you are, Sebastian, in the US, in the UK?
Yeah, I'm in the McTimoney College.
Oh, great. Say hello to Val Pinocchio for me.
Okay.
Give her a huge, huge hug and tell her that she can share a healing about the enormous blister that she had at one of the camp, that if this is the sole of her foot, it took the entire sole of the foot. It was like a bubble that big under her foot from an event that we did in Colorado.
Okay.
So she's going to crack up on that one.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. And if you email me, we'll put you on the email list to make sure that you know when the MLS is coming in the UK.
Oh, yeah, with pleasure.
Anyone have another question maybe? No? Seems like...
By the way, Romain Cardinal is taking over MLS in France. And he just did one in Toulouse. And it was extraordinary. He's like the next big upcoming star in chiropractic in France, but from a very good place. So I'm very excited. And Charles Leroux, as soon as we can do it, we'll do the seminar in Paris that has been postponed. It's going to be a big seminar. There is a lot of people register for it. So as soon as COVID is over, we'll do that. We'll schedule the one in Paris. And lastly, I hope to be able to come to Paris to speak at Grandir en Conscience, to grow in consciousness, which is set up by Sebastian Fuentes and Thomas and Sabrina, Elodie, Nicole. So I hope to be able to come this fall.
It
So
just
that's gonna be
happened this
exciting.
weekend.
Huh?
It was just happening this week, and I went there Sunday, Saturday.
Did they have a
was
good
great.
turnout in spite of COVID?
We were less than expected, but it went, and it was still a very good vibe. I came back grandi.
Body, super evolved, grown. Huh? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a good thing, and the people that are leading it are good people. I know them, and I feel very strong about that crew. Great. Well, let's close the call. All right.
Yeah, super. Thank you so
my
much.
love,
Arno.
all my love to all of you. And Axel, thank you so much for inviting me. And whenever you want down the line, we can do another one. And for those of you that are on the call, Lucas, Fiona, Harry, Dave, Matthew, Sebastian, appreciate your presence. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you,
Love,
Arno.
love. Bye-bye.